We hear a lot of perspectives on the Mankind podcast. Inclusion of a guest is not an endorsement of their views, and the opinions expressed here do not always represent the mission or values of the Mankind Project USA.
What does it really take to rebuild trust after betrayal in a relationship? Not just to stay together, but to thrive as individuals and as a couple. This week on the Mankind podcast, I sat down with Craig and Michelle Perra. They're the founders of the Mindful Habit System. Their story is raw and powerful and honestly life affirming. Craig hit rock bottom through sex and porn addiction. Michelle held her own through unimaginable pain. And together, they chose a path of truth, of shadow work, and radical accountability, not just to each other, but to themselves. So, what does it look like for a man to reclaim his integrity? And what does it look like for a woman to hold her boundaries without closing her heart? And what would it take for a couple to stay in the fire long enough to emerge stronger? We go deep into what accountability really means in a relationship, how addiction and secrecy tear at the fabric of intimacy, and why doing your personal work isn't just attractive, it's essential. It's the only thing. This one isn't about blame, it's about healing. Welcome to the Mankind Podcast. Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's Boysen Hodgson with the Mankind Podcast, the show where we set out to prove week on week that there is more than one way to be a man. And I think that we are doing an extraordinary job. So I've been on this kick, right? I've been interviewing all of these folks that I met at the Big Tent Summit in Loveland, Colorado. Today is another one of those opportunities. I am with Craig and Michelle Perra. And guys, say hello, first of all.
Hello. Hi. Hello, everyone.
I'm really excited for this conversation. What you will hear is that we really bonded over karaoke at this. So the Big Tent Summit, yeah, whatever. We'll talk about men's work, talk about masculinity, talk about all that. But can you be in a room full of people and just love the shit out of each other and celebrate one another and dance around like fools? Like that's really the thing. So can we do that together? So Craig Pera,
magical.
It was magical. It was totally magical. And
that's I think really quickly, it embodies what life is, right? Supporting each other, right? And having fun, and not, some things can be light and supportive and happy and being there together. And it's just, and we didn't even know each other well. And by the end, we were like best friends. So,
Yes, we love that. And if it's late, today is going to be an intense show also. So we're going to be here. We're going to be happy. We're going to be supporting each other. We're going to be loving on one another. And we're going to be talking about some difficult stuff. So Craig Pera is a former sex and drug addict. He is now world renowned for transforming the lives of thousands of men struggling with sex and porn addiction. After hitting rock bottom himself and getting fired for the second time from an executive attorney role, he founded the Mindful Habit System, a behavior change modality clients have repeatedly called life-changing and revolutionary. Link will be in the show notes. Go check out the testimonials on his page. They're incredible. Craig has had the great pleasure to coach Olympians, professional athletes and coaches, titans of industry and icons. He's been on the Steve Harvey Show. He's been on Katie Couric, Lifetime, A&E. He's a member of his local Rotary. He loves Metallica and My Little Pony, and he loves giving back to his community. I did not know the My Little Pony thing, and it checks out. Michelle Perra is a certified professional life coach and the co-founder of the Mindful Habit System. She's appeared on Anderson Cooper. She's also been on the Katie Couric Show, has been featured in Bella Magazine. Her life is helping people connect with the life they know deep down inside is possible. Her personal story has touched millions and is living proof that a woman and a couple can survive and thrive through tough times and come out stronger and closer than ever. That
Yeah.
also checks out from what I know of these two. So, Michelle, I'm actually going to start with you, and because we're going to be having a hard conversation today, and a lot of it has to do with truth and openness and connection. What does accountability look like when we are talking about these kinds of disruptions from secrecy and addiction and disconnection?
Well, accountability comes for me in a couple of different forms, right? There's the accountability when it comes to addictive behavior. And as a partner, it it's a complex word. And it's not just an easy an easy answer, because there's accountability, but you've got to be accountable to yourself at the end of the day, right? If you're just accountable to your partner, there's an energy of you're doing it because they have to. You've got to own it. You want that accountability for yourself. So as a partner, I want my partner to be showing up better for himself. And there's a place of being able to have the hard conversations, being able to sit in the space where, maybe your partner is hurting. Maybe they're in pain. Maybe this is really hard for them. Maybe they're triggered and acting a little a little what you would consider crazy because they're going through so much and they don't know how to handle it. The person who is struggling with addictive behavior, being able to sit there and hold space for that person without getting defensive, without having to defend themselves. And that's kind of like what we would want to see. And as a partner, accountability for me to learn how to hold space for myself and to be in that place where I am empowered enough to know that I'm okay with or without this person. I am okay whether he rises to the occasion or it's disappointing and he doesn't rise to the occasion and doesn't move forward in the way I want. Accountability, knowing that I am okay no matter what happens. And knowing that I take care of myself and I am my own best friend, right? I want my partner, but I don't need them. That for me is the strongest place. I hope that answers the question. Does that answer it?
Yeah, that really gets into exactly where I wanted to start from, because I think that what for me is unique about the two of you is that this has been a journey that you've been on together. And what you just said, Michelle, was I didn't know what you were going to say, and that sounds exactly right to me. It's like you have to know that you are a whole person, that you are intact by yourself, that you are going to be okay regardless of what happens, in order to hold that space, in order to be okay with where you are. And now I'm going to move to Craig, because Craig, something that I admire in everything that I've heard you say and everything that I've watched you say in speaking is you are unabashedly accountable. Like every time I've heard you say you take 100% responsibility for who you are and where you've been and what you've done and what you've gone through. And so from that perspective, what's accountability mean to you?
The first thing I want to say to answer that question, so your audience knows, mentally ill, bipolar, ADD, depression, anxiety, addicted to everything, was a horrible, horrible husband and human being at various points of my life. Almost narcissist. When Michelle started embracing that perspective that she just shared with you, it shattered the illusion that I was going to be able to manipulate my way out of this again. Oof. It shattered that narcissistic bubble that I was somehow in control, that I would just do what I would normally do and go through the motions, and still like, no, she was gone. She was working on herself. She's like, you, okay, when you're done, come back to me. Like having a tantrum over something crazy. And so what that did to me, I said, son of a gun, I got to do everything in my power where I am still in the home, because in the beginning, I got fired from my second job, tried to hurt myself, and she was there to pick me up from the gutter, and in the beginning was to get me back on my feet so I could work. That's what I did. I had young children. I was the provider. I was an attorney for a $1 billion company. I worked for companies my entire life. And when that illusion shattered and I finally, dove in and did the work, I said to myself, as long as I am in this house, I'm going to do everything in my power to not let her control me, because mommy's telling me what to do, because I got to tell her what I'm looking at, where I'm going, what I'm doing. I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't go for a walk, Boysen. I was so out of integrity. I would have set something up on the walk around the block. I mean, I was crazy. There was no trust. And I said, I'm going to take that off the table. I am going to be probably annoying to her. I'm never going to have her guess where I am. And this was before the apps. It wasn't as easy then. Right, Michelle? We didn't have the tracking. No, we definitely didn't have that.
No, because it's crazy how you can see things now, but we didn't have. Yeah, there wasn't that then.
Right. We didn't have that. Yeah. So my mission was to do everything in my power to earn her trust back, make her feel safe, not because I'm a bad boy and mommy's scolding me and I'm in trouble, because I'm a man and I've hurt my wife and I want to make it right.
Thank you. Yes.
Well, and Craig, I want to add in there the words that you use that I remember you saying, which I think is powerful. Yes, it was, you want to make it right, but it was, I'm a man and I want to protect my family.
That's right.
And that's what he said. And so instead of, I have to do this, this is me protecting my family. And I found that to be very powerful when you said it like that.
It lands on me as intrinsic motivation. There's a different kind of motivational space, right? From I'm going to set this value to become a different person, rather than I'm being chastised, so I have to do something. It's like little boy versus adult.
Totally.
Kind of position. I'm going to take us back way further before the relationship, having listened to a little bit of your story. Talk about the path that you took, Craig, into this really dark place that you ended up in.
So first the dinosaurs came, then I was adopted. So we start with being adopted. I was later learned I was born to a teenage mother. My biological father was well over age, so statutory rape, and a lot of tension in gestation. And I sat in an orphanage, and wasn't held for anywhere from 4 to 6 months. So I've learned that the name for that is called the primal wound. And that's something that adoptees experience, and not knowing who they are, no nationality, no knowledge, no roots, no one that looks like them. And we know now the first thing they do with the baby is put it on the mother. Like and they don't do that for charity because they're being nice. They do it because it increases the baby survival. And we know scientifically that it impacts how that baby attaches.
Yes.
At its earliest stages. So I did not get that. I was adopted by two wonderful college-educated parents. My father's in the New England Coaching Hall of Fame, the Rhode Island Soccer Hall of Fame, and did their best to take me and my sister. My mother had some serious mental health challenges. Her form of discipline, by today's standards, was horrifically violent. And so and there was deep religious shame. Sex is dirty and disgusting. You save it for someone you love. When you're married, if you don't, you'll burn in hell. So there was always this sense of being on the outside being different, and being hurt. And so sex from the earliest magazine, I can see the picture I found in the gutter, boys, and I remember the worn ink on the photograph. I remember, and it was this magical, wonderful escape. And guess what? There was an older neighborhood boy whose parents didn't pay any attention to him, had a basement with a pool table, and that got sexual at a very, very, very young age. And that contributed to the shame. But on the outside, everything was looking good. I was in the gifted program, smart kid, captain of 2 sports, class president, go to UConn, meet my beautiful bride, get into UConn Law School, get the big job, crushing it. And throughout this time, there were 3 major mental health issues. The worst was the last one that brought me here. But it was completely okay in my mind that I would lie, that I would cheat, that I would pay for sex, steal the family's money, to go to prostitutes and strip clubs. I had convinced myself that that was totally normal. And what I didn't know then that I know now, that I was mentally ill, masking a lot of pain. And that pain caused a lot of damage. And I'll just say it. Michelle doesn't like it, but I'll say it. I was an abusive husband.
Thank you. So he said, Michelle doesn't like it, but I'll say it. And Michelle just kind of held there. Do you have anything for that, Michelle?
I knew you were going to ask me that. Yes, I do. So I respect and love that he understands how hard that everything was for me. There's the Craig that's the most incredible man you'll ever meet. And then there's the Craig that's really not at all. And owning that and saying I was abusive is powerful. It's strong. And there is definitely truth to that. And I appreciate that he feels that way. My issue on the word, the reason I don't like it is okay. So I don't love that word.
Yeah.
Because it makes me feel like a victim. Okay. I knew what I was. It's hard for me to say that, I never knew Craig was capable of that. That's so untrue. Okay. I mean, we went to college together. We were best friends. I know who Craig is. And he was my best friend. And there's a place where I also have to take ownership of how I chose to move forward in my life. Right. And how I had to learn to have my own voice. Right. I'm like 4 years younger than him, which is no big deal now. But at the time, I was 18 when we got together, 19, and he was, Mr. Law School man. Right. I was thinking he's so smart. And so me learning to have a voice and me learning what I went through all this. So yes, I like to say he was abusive, but I don't like to say that I was abused because, I think there's just so many challenges with him. And so I don't connect with that word because for me, I had to learn my path of finding who I am, finding where my groundedness was. And that was a beautiful path for me. Yeah. At the end of the day, I would never want to repeat ever what happened, but I'm not so sure that I would change it because I wouldn't be where I am. And I think I'm in a fabulous place and I love where I am. And so I like to say he was abusive, but not that I was abused. Thank you. And I know that's just a split on words, but that's my thing. And it's very powerful for me.
Distinctions
the
are
words we use.
important, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah. And thank you for this. Is it. It's accountability again. Like, you are accountable for how you are in the world, and Craig is accountable for how he is in the world. And now let's negotiate based on that. And thank you for the framing. And Craig, there were some things in there that I didn't know and hadn't heard. So thank you for sharing that kind of depth. Something that strikes me is the naturalness. You said, it was easy to lie. I thought that was good. It was easy to go through those things. It was easy to do that. Based on what you know now, based on all the people that you've worked with over the years, the two of you together through this process, how common is this out there? Like, when you've been going through it, like, what's the cost that we're actually paying and not talking about as a culture?
Yeah, part of our mission, Boysen, is to change the conversation from sex addiction and porn addiction to sexual health, mental health, physical health, spiritual health. We want to broaden that, and the reason why is because while there are some men that clearly fall into that category, it is compulsive, it is ruining their lives. So the addiction kind of is that compulsivity. But what if we framed it from an "are you in integrity" issue? If we ask the question, how many men are out of integrity in their relationships, meaning having micro cheating, thirst traps, liking, secret OnlyFans, talking to the AI chatbot, I think that number is massive.
Yes.
I think that massive. 25% of men have sex addiction. I would add another 50%. And I know that sounds crazy and I'm making up a number here, but I know that almost everyone I talk to is out of integrity in some capacity, hiding something about their sexual expression.
And based on how that landed for you and how it hit in your life, what do you see as some of the impacts that 75% is having on families, communities, city councils, politics, school systems?
Yeah. Japan's birth rate is impacted, and I have read that they have documented that porn is contributing to the lower birth rate in Japan. We're seeing the age of boys growing into men on the internet. 30% of women 18 to 40 have been slapped, choked, spit on during intercourse by their partners. It's infecting the lovemaking. It corrupts their arousal template. It makes people feel shame because they're out of integrity. They know they're lying. And this is one of the challenges with the addiction model is they're stuffing it down. They're stuffing it down. But what they're also stuffing down is their life's essence, their force, their this most powerful force in human nature, their sexual power is corrupted. And if one of the most powerful forces in human nature, at best being wasted like high fructose corn syrup to deal with, to numb, cope, and escape, at worst staining your soul, corrupting your legacy, robbing you of, your creative talents and focus and having that partner who's your ride or die, is with you to the end, and you're out of integrity. I think it is literally tearing at the fabric of society.
Just let that sit in the space for a minute. I am in agreement.
Oh, and one more thing. Oh, let this sit. I also believe that the data is going to show that porn is the canary in the coal mine to misogyny. It is the pathway. Not canary. It is the pathway. It is a part of that step.
Yes. Thank you. And let's be real clear. Misogyny is one of those words, right? Hatred of women, the belief in superiority and of men and hatred of women. Michelle, how aware, and you're not all women and you can't speak for all women, How aware do you think that we are as a culture and women are that this is kind of the sea that we're swimming in these days?
That's a tough question because the thing that I see on, like in our partner program, right? When partners join and they say, how could this happen? Or they're shocked, that their partners are watching too much porn. And I say to myself, like I feel sad because the reality is it is such an issue out there that for me it's not, oh my God, how did that happen? It's, oh man, this is really a challenging situation and I'm not happy with it. Because when we go into it, like, oh my God, I'm like, I have no idea. So I think that there are some women that are very aware and some women that are not. Or they think once I get married, it doesn't exist anymore because this is, we have these dreams of these white picket fences and we get married and it's our soulmate and the person loves us till the day we die, right? That's what we women, I mean, we love that. Think about it. I think of the things in the fairy tales that I love, right? It just doesn't show the real life. It just shows the fairy tale when they meet and fall in love. It doesn't show all the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So in theory, that's great, but it's not reality. And I always, whenever I work with people, I always teach them that this may be unfair, but this is real life. And what are we going to do about it? And that's the challenge, is just bringing awareness. Like I know when Craig and I, once we became vocal, it was really hard at first, actually really hard, because I was very judged at the school. I'll never forget, like, my God, I'll never forget when Craig and I started doing what we were doing and we were open about it. And I was a little embarrassed. Okay. And I remember one of the teachers who was a friend of mine, through the school, the kids were in elementary school. And they were at like I don't know, one of the teacher parties. And they were all sitting there talking about me, about in a negative way. Like, oh my God, how could you do that? And this teacher was like, no, I told them that she's going to put her cape on and she's going to save the world. And I remember that. And I remember feeling like, oh my God, thank you. It was so supportive. And I wasn't that bothered by it, but it was really sad. So it took me a long time to come out in the open.
Mm-hmm.
Craig was like ready to scream to the world. He was done with the hiding. And it was really hard for me because he wanted to do this. And he wanted to save the world, save every man and save every family, keep them together. And I wasn't quite ready, but I supported him because it was an important mission. But the more comfortable I got with it, right? And Craig and I, we just talk about it. There's no filter. People over time start to really respect us. So it's not an issue anymore, like at all. But people come to us now in secret. Hey, I have to talk to you about something. And it's amazing how many people, or they'll say something and ask it. And I know what they're asking or why they're asking. And I find so many people ask me questions in ways because they want to know if it's normal or if what they're going through is a thing. And so I think it's something that's being talked about more now. And I think it's such an important topic because especially women, as we get older, like I'm turning 50, right? We change. It's not the same anymore. And it's really hard because we're getting older. And like for guys, it's when you guys get older, it's great. But it's not great when the women get older. So there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of stress on that. And so I think the more we have open conversations and say, hey, this is a reality, something we don't need to hide from it. This is what's happening. And if we all talk and we all kind of own our own energy and what we're bringing to our lives and kind of say, okay, I want to be the best version of myself, the outcome will be a lot better if we are able to talk about all this stuff more.
Thank you. Let's talk about sexuality in integrity, because as you were speaking, Michelle, I'm just like, with awareness of we celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary in less than a month.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yay.
Right. And we're folks of a certain age. And I notice that the more openly and deeply my wife and I do our shadow work together around all of these things, around all of the places where I hide, around all of the places where she hides and falls into old patterns or into old wounds and all of that stuff. The more that we do our shadow work together so that there is that sense of full integrity in the relationship, the hotter it is as a couple. And so talk about what's the get here for people who are going into this and it feels like, oh my God, my whole world's going to fall apart. Everything's going to be over. Da, 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 da. What's
Yeah.
the get on the other side of integrity?
The get on the other side is happiness, joy, connection, less cortisol, physical fitness, more vulnerability, a higher quality of life. Again, because the data is clear. When this energy is flowing between husband and wife, everyone is happier. There's a study, Boysen, that I'm familiar with, and there was something in the abstract said something to the effect of, it doesn't matter what love language they use. It doesn't matter if they use I feel language. They can go to bed angry. But if they're connecting in that way, they work it out. And obviously that's not true for everybody. And that was a little tongue-in-cheek, reference to that. When this is happening, it's better. And I think this is going to be written about culturally, Boysen, because you have two people's deepest wounds being hijacked, exploited, corrupted, being touched. So on one hand, for the men, this is our oldest and most impactful habit. We have been hiding, not just doing it, but hiding, using pleasure to escape discomfort since we were children, as far back as we can humanly remember. And we knew enough to keep it secret. It was bad. It was shameful. So there's all the stuff around that. So this old and impactful habit for the men is, for many of these women, their deepest wound, because they're internalizing that habit as, he doesn't love me, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty, I'm not attractive, which is completely understandable. I don't want to take anything away from that, but there is this dissonance between the two experiences that the people are having. And to your point earlier, to do the work around those reactions and that pain and that trauma will bring you closer together.
Yes.
Can I answer that too? So
Yeah.
as you guys were talking, I mean, most women I know, they want communication. They want to know what's in your head. So like personal growth for a lot of people, that's attractive, right? For me, owning your stuff is attractive, right? Not being defensive. So when you're doing the work, you're not being defensive. You're coming together. To me, this is something that I try to teach, dropping the right and wrong, right? And just communicating, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm experiencing. Hey, I might have reacted, or I might have said the wrong thing. This is what I was going through. So you understand each other. One of the reasons probably that I've stayed with Craig so long, and I mean this from everything I've learned about myself, everything I learned about my human needs, and why there's a few reasons, but one of the things I think that always kept me with him is because he didn't really stick until the last time, but he was always into self-growth. So when he would implode, like he would go to therapy, and then he would communicate with me what he's finding. So it allowed me to understand him a little bit more. And in those moments, he was very vulnerable. It made us like super close, because I was like, okay, I understand. I can work with this. You are giving me something to work with. And so, well, as you know, when we go through what we're going, what somebody, if they're dealing with sex and porn addiction or any addictive behavior, the growth out of that is it, because people don't tend to do their self-growth work unless they have to.
Yes.
And that's something that I think I would like to change. We want to be proactive on that, because again, self-growth, I think that's hot. You know what I mean? That is just great. And most women I know want to see that, right? Men, they're not as connected emotionally. So they tend to not. And that's an issue that I think we see in a lot of relationships. So when you go through this, you're forced to do the work. And you kind of look at your relationship. Okay, what's working? What's not working? How do we communicate better? How do we meet both of our needs? So when these things happen, we go through this horrific experience. There is such beauty and growth that can come out of it because of the self-growth. And that just makes you closer together. Like Craig and I feel so connected to him. And I wouldn't even say like, take the like sex out of it. It's an intimate connection.
Yes.
That only comes from time and working through things. And again, that connection, that's what's, especially for women, and I love that you said that, because I want more men to feel that way, right? Because for women, I know that's the case for a lot of women.
Yeah. Thank you. How do we, and this is, how do we keep from just like not being angry and feeling betrayed all the time, right? Because I think that there is sort of a nihilistic sense in the culture right now, is like, if men are being bad or women are being bad in some other way culturally, then where we end up, and this is like the manosphere conversation, right? We end up with involuntary celibate men who are just angry at women all the time and so disconnect from everything. And we end up with, oh goodness, what was there was actually a name for it, of all the women who have just stopped dating men completely because of the pain in the environment. How do we get past that into something more healthy? Yeah, solve that one for me, will you?
Oof.
Craig, you think I'm just going to give my quick answer on that?
Yeah, no, please do.
I have a super quick answer on that. I don't know, but that's what I strive to do. You've met me a little bit. I strive to, number one, when you stop needing somebody else and wanting companionship, instead of, there's this need when we couple, when we get together, where it's that person provides my safety. When we find that power within ourselves and we're grounded and we know that I got myself. So no matter what happens, I'll be okay. Nobody's going to break me. Nobody's going to wound me. And when we go into that from that place of being empowered and not be afraid to get hurt, not afraid to get broken, I try to have empathy for people, say, wow, that sucks that they're acting that way. That's not something that's healthy for me, but they've got their stuff to work on and they're never going to be happy. And that's on them. And I have empathy for that, but I got to go take care of me. So I'm good. There's a different reaction than that person hurt me, I'm broken, and I will never recover the pieces ever again.
Thank you. Yeah.
So that's for me. Craig, what about you?
Well, I think Boysen is doing it with the Mankind Project, offering people opportunities to dig deep, to explore their shadow, and to come out the other side. Everyone listening, I'm doing it October 2nd. So, go to the website and check it out. Everyone you talk to says it's awesome, and I can't wait to do it. But it's what I can do, what we can do is the best we can. Is to be the best leaders we can, to do what's in my control at my local Rotary Club and at the Chamber of Commerce and in my community, because if not, you get lost in hopelessness. And it's hard for any leader now looking at the data and seeing the need for systemic changes to solve the deeper underlying problems in the current climate is away from doing any of those necessary things. So it can feel hopeless at times, but if we put down our phones, if we start connecting with each other again, and when I think about the future, Boysen, I've been helping people for 13 years, Michelle and I, 30 countries, every religious group, every political affiliation, and we have never had a bad conversation about anything. It has never happened. It has never. Can you imagine? Like and listen, I got a DEI professor. I had an imam, a rabbi, the DEI professor, the conservative, red state Republican committee leader and whatnot, and we focused on the 98%. And when we focused on that 98% that we all agree on, everybody got along. So I see hope there. I think it's going to take us some time, some effort to focus our efforts on what's important. But in terms of relationships, putting down the phones, being honest, doing the shadow work, being your best self, and controlling what you can control.
Oh, and can I say one last thing?
Yes.
I harp on this all the time. Stop always trying to be right, because we always want to prove that we're right. And we forget to listen, and we forget to respect. We forget that somebody else's reality might be their reality. And I think it produces a little more openness and a little less friction when we just allow each other to communicate.
Thank you. So we mentioned the mindful habit system at the top of the episode, but I definitely want to give you an opportunity to say, so what does that look like if there are couples out there, if there are folks out there who are listening to this and saying, oh boy, I know I got something going here. What is it? Yeah.
So the mindful habit system is an complement, and for a lot of guys, an alternative to traditional 12-step recovery for sex and porn addiction, Boysen. So there's a very active academic debate. The American Psychiatric Association rejected sex and porn addiction. The World Health Organization called it obsessive compulsive sex disorder. And so I had done a lot of that addiction lens work, and it was too heavy on break a habit, not enough on make a habit. And so when I hit my rock bottom and I got my prescription to keep doing what I was doing, I knew there was a hole that I wanted to plug. And I knew that not everyone connected with that model, and that there were practical skills and tools that you could learn. And so we built this training. And that training's been evolving over 13 years, and it's really focused on addressing the deeper underlying issues, the lying, compartmentalizing, the lack of empathy, the self-control and self-esteem, and give guys a way to take these tools, create long-term success, support each other in that journey. We have in-person retreats. We have a partner program that Michelle runs with me. And so if someone's out of integrity and wants to get back in integrity, they can visit the website mindfulhabithelp.com.
Thank you. Michelle, is there anything you want to add to that? What's of the experience of leading the partner program?
What's great about our program, right? We've got our program for men because they need help, and it's a community for the men. And the women, we want our men to learn a different way, to be better for the family, not just give up, right? So it's comforting for the partners. We hear all the time, he just needs to be in a program, and the community that we built, it's very powerful. So the guys really, really love that. But the partners, you need support too. So we also have a program for the partners, but it's interesting because we have the partners, we work on the partners. Because just like I said, I had to learn how to be okay for myself. I think it's a powerful thing. So we help empower partners so they are okay no matter what way it goes. And then they have an opportunity to ask questions, because you always have questions about what the guy's going through. You have an opportunity to ask that, to grow yourself in a community of women that all are going through what you're going through. And it's very supportive. And it's really awesome to see women, because you've met me now. This is reality. Let's do it. Let's create change. You got this. You don't need anybody. You're strong. So it's a lot sometimes when partners join. But what's beautiful is, a couple months in, and then I see them nodding when I talk. They're like, oh, I hear you. I got it. And like, so Michelle, I was doing this and I heard you say, and I'm like, oh, so it's just, we could learn a better way for ourselves because it's not something that's easily managed. And so that's the beautiful thing, for the men do their work and the women do their work. And then everybody learns a very similar language too, to communicate, to connect. And that's, can be very powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll say, back from the personal thing, Michelle is the ultimate hype girl who I got to meet and hang out with. And I feel honored that in some small way, maybe even contributing to your journey, Michelle, as continuing to come out. And
Mhm.
Craig, the level of integrity that I have heard you express in everything that, and every connection that we've had, has been extraordinary. So folks listening, check it out down below. If there's something here for you, there might be something here for you. So reach out to them. And Michelle and Craig, I can't wait to be back in real space with you again. Thank you for taking the time with me today.
Thank you for having us.
Well, here's my last words for the men. Men,
Yes.
your sexual energy is powerful, and with great power comes great responsibility. Get that in your head. Not sex addiction, porn addiction. Great power, great responsibility. Let's do it.
Keep coming back to the podcast, folks. We'll see you next time.
This has been the Mankind Podcast, produced in association with the Mankind Project USA. And of course, I want to thank you, the listener, because through your attention and your support, you make it a heck of a lot easier for us to let men out there in the world know that they are not alone and that there is more than one way to be a man. And if you've been enjoying the music throughout this episode and all of our episodes, check out Jim, Donovan, and the Sun King Warriors. I have links to them in the show notes. Now, the fee for this episode is simple. If you found gold and insights that you believe could benefit your loved ones and those you care about, be sure to share it with them. And of course, remember that life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us, so long as we rip the pen out of fate's hand and become the author of our own story. So my friend, pick up the pen and we'll see you next week. Lots of love.
Hey, it's Boysen. On the Mankind Podcast, we've brought some incredible guests on to talk about the importance of doing the work to improve our mental and emotional health. And here's the truth. Multiple times over the last 25 years, I've had the help of one-on-one work with some amazing therapists. For me, for my wife, for both of us as adoptive parents, and for our kids. The Mankind Project and Men's Group, though awesome, are not a substitute for professional mental health support. And so I'm thrilled that the Mankind Podcast now has BetterHelp as a sponsor for the show. BetterHelp works online. It asks you what you're working on and then matches you for live one-on-one sessions with a licensed therapist, someone trained to work with you, listen, and offer helpful insights. I'm using BetterHelp. It's super easy, and I like what I'm getting. If getting one-on-one support in the comfort of your own space feels like a good direction for you, I invite you to check it out. Go to the link in the show notes or betterhelp.com/mankind. And if you sign up, you'll get 10% off your first month of therapy.